5.
4. I hit the mic.
3.
2.
1.
That's right.
Yes, sorry, I was
Yay.
like 1, that's 2, but 1. Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where we read about some Dungeons & Dragons and discuss how we might include it in our role-playing campaigns. Folks, it has been a trek, it has been a journey, but today I went out of my house.
Into the real world.
I went into the real world, I battled through tubes, I battled through various slow walkers, because they're everywhere, they're back in London now, and I went to that game shop, and as I went in I saw it. Beautiful, bold. Fizban is finally out in the UK after a week or so of delayed shipping stuff. There was even announcements I saw in gaming groups saying it's not coming out to the 9th, and today we are recording on the 9th, so I was like, if the time is now, and I honestly, I rushed, got it, and the woman behind the counter was like, you're here for that one book, aren't you? And I was like, yes! Everyone's coming for that book, and I was like, I know. So yes, so I'm very happy to have it, and it is. And I must say, I think I'm sold now on alternate covers because it is just like if I just again I don't want to blow my camera, but it is just beautiful.
It's really cool.
I can't even if I just move it like that, it shimmers ever so slightly.
It's the shimmeringness that's very nice.
Even on the back, which is just a simple fireplace with a Fizban's hat. Well, again, less good on this side, but
yeah, no, it's still nice. It's still. I think it's still better than the only thing I'm not a total fan of the font. I'm going to say that's the only thing I'm going to say.
I agree because it now looks like a generic.
It looks a bit too
book.
generic, like book on dragons. Not.
Yeah,
it feels like it needs like a proper leather bound title.
Yeah, if I pick up, I guess.
Pick up.
Hang on, if I pick up, I've got Eberron here as well. Obviously, I know they're very different books. Yes. I guess, obviously, they've got that very specialised title sort of thing. And then but even then, sorry, this is where I'm going to hand out all the books, but even with Wild Beyond the Witchlight, even that alternate cover, like that...
It's just, that's what I mean, it's just so much more ingrained and part of it.
Yeah.
I just feel like Fizban should feel more like... I don't know, I just feel like it could be more feely.
Yeah, and no, but it's true, and if you, again, looking at the other alt covers, so like Rime of the Frost Maiden.
I love that. Yeah, the Hydra 74 ones are really good.
Yeah, another one of that one. Yeah, and the what's it called?
All of the standard monster manuals and the stuff that he does are great as well.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what's it called now. The Saltmarsh one, which is done from the perspective of the one person on the boat as well. They're all again, they have very stylized fonts, whereas this is a very simple font. Yes. I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to take away from the shiny dragon.
Super dragon. Yeah, it's fine. It's just not what I need.
It just doesn't sound fine. Anyway, but yes.
It feels like it should be in some nice cursive, like big F, like the big, when you have the first, I forgot the letter. What is it called?
Oh, yeah, like the capital of the beginning of the
drop cap, the sort of drawn cap.
Yeah.
The sort of, that's what I mean.
So I appreciate I showed my book and then it didn't introduce my co-host, which is very poor of me. With me, as always...
It's definitely more important, the book.
With me, as always, who actually suggested this whole topic is Hamilton. Hamilton, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm okay. I mentioned it, but I said I'll save it for now. On the last show, we had Curse of Strahd yesterday.
Yes.
Don't like it. I don't like it.
Why? Why don't you like
No,
it?
I really love it, but I don't like it, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
we're having a lot of fun. We're in the Fred Durst house.
Oh, the Durst family. Yeah.
We got to the basement now. We're in the basement.
Oh no, not
the
basement.
I love how and at the end of the game, DM says, 70% of parties who played this game, we're still not out of it. TPK, and I was like, so why the fuck have you put this into us? Why have you done this to us? And he said, but you're doing really well. Okay, yeah, because I've only got 1 cure wounds left. Nearly everyone's died once. I've died. I was down once. Everyone went down once pretty much. Oh, feck. But we're doing flanking rules. Mm-hmm. So we definitely got ourselves like at corridor entrances, kill zone, they run in, ghouls just slash. I tried to save my Divine Smite because I wanted to keep my spell slots for Cure Wounds. but it really fucked me over, actually.
Oh,
I took Blessed Warrior, Paladin, so I got to use my Radiant Burst, which is kind of fun. We found the human sack of coins.
Oh, yes.
Which became a very comic moment for all of us. It just kind of...
It's just made of human skin. What?
Yeah, it's made of human skin. Yeah, it was not nice. But yes. And we've decided we're taking a short rest in the chamber where the baby used to live, sort of thing.
Oh, fun.
We've survived the short rest. He did the roll on the table. We survived that. And now we're going to join the party downstairs where the noise is coming from.
Oh, yes. The various chantings and stuff. Very good.
How much further have we got? I want to get out of this freaking house.
Not really spoiler. There's one more level, and
that's
it's a doozy. And you know what's interesting? Again, I wouldn't don't read anything about it. No. There was an article recently which talks about how difficult that challenge is, that starting adventure is, and how you might change it. So there's other things you can ask. Like, for example, I think it was saying, start them on level 2 rather than level 1 and that sort of thing.
We leveled up to level 2, and they kindly said to us, without a long rest, you can gain all your spells, but you can't gain your health points.
Interesting. I was just like, no, you're so squishy. I want to hit you, please. Just pretend you've got it.
We just used like whatever we could to get our health up to nearly our full level, but
It's I really like it as a starting adventure. I think that
is there because I think there's alternate ones. Is that right? Are there alternate starting adventures?
Not in the Ravenloft campaign. I appreciate we're getting completely off topic. We need to talk about Fizban's.
No.
No.
You can cut this if you want.
No. I will talk about Strahd forever, as you know. But so it's a good one to like. Hey, here's a haunted house to get you through levels 1 to 3. But you can go into anywhere in Ravenloft. You can start in Barovia. You can start in one of the other villages, because it's just it's a domain of dread. So you could cross into the mists and just appear wherever. Well,
that's what we saw. We've come from the real world.
Yeah.
I want to say somewhere. I can't remember. Somewhere that supposedly had werewolves. I don't know if you made it up. I don't know. But we then crossed. In the mist came after us, and we ran into the house, sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ye old-fashioned mists are following you. It follows. Yeah. But yeah, there's. I think it's quite. I like it as a starting adventure, but once you're out, there is some.
I've got no armor.
Well, that's not my problem.
I'm a paladin. Literally, that's all I've got is armor. Like,
Don't
I've
worry.
got 10 AC right now.
You'll be able to get some at some point.
Yeah, one of the fighters got the armor. Anyway, whatever. I'm not pissed off.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying Curse of Strahd.
No, I am enjoying it. Yes, we're here to talk about Fizban. Sorry, I shouldn't.
No, at all. So this episode, we are going to talk about our first impressions of Fizbans, and I'm sure we will like Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I'm sure we'll come back to it. Obviously, Wild Beyond the Witchlight is quite popular just now. There's tons of stuff about Feywild. We've just done an episode on Domains of Delight. We've done one on Feywild Companion. Yep, by Splinterverse. Who have also, I will say, even though we're not reviewing it this episode, they've also brought out their own Fizban's accompaniment document. So, worth checking out, absolutely. They kindly sent it to us, and I'm sure at some point we'll have a look through it and recommend stuff as well. But today we're going to talk about Fizban's Treasury of Dragons.
Of Dragons, yeah.
So, I guess, Hamilton.
Yes.
Who is?
I'm here. Who is Fizban?
Who is Fizban?
Who is Fizban?
Fizban!
Sorry. Fizban! This is always going to be how it is to be said.
Yeah.
Fizban's is a dragon in human form.
Yeah. So massive spoilers, because I didn't realise that until I read that just before we started the notes. I was like, oh!
Yeah.
Like, completely blindsided me. But that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. From the Dragonlance novels series. And as it will talk in this, dragons like to get in human form, go and just check out what's going on in the world, keep an eye on things, be aware, and that's what Fizban was. I don't know if it's still alive. I don't know if they're still alive or not. I don't in the stories, but
which dragon is he though?
Oh, he's Bahamut.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the main one.
Yeah, which completely, again, blindsided me, because I was like, wait, what? Because obviously it talks about Bahamut in the third person, this book, and then it goes, and then there's like one little line saying, obviously, with Fizban's being Bahamut in disguise, and I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
ah.
But it's very cool. I'm going to switch to the art that we've got on there. So there you go, see the art there. And yeah, that's Fizban. That's Fizban.
Yeah.
And he wrote this book. That's about dragons.
About dragons. And
yeah.
Another great book. I will say, look, if you again, I'm sure it shows it on D&D Beyond as well, but looking at the pages themselves, and it again, this is my little inside insight, which is like for anyone who's watching me. But essentially, the person, the
here's
art.
a picture of Fizban.
Oh, go for it. But like the graphic designer, so Trish Yocum, who I interviewed for Dragon Plus a little while ago. So she creates all the interior, like page textiles. Yeah, the yes.
Yeah, the patination of the pages. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So with Wild Beyond the Witchlight, it was all about butterfly wings and stuff, which you can sort of vaguely see, sort of semi-translucent on the pages and on the page as well.
Can we see the ones on Fizban? Because it doesn't come up on D&D Beyond, so it'd be nice to see.
I don't know if you, well, I'll hold it up to the camera, but I don't think you'll be able to see it. But here we go. We've got a better one there. You can see it is dragon scales.
Oh, lush.
It goes all the way down.
Nice.
So obviously, and I just like, and what...
Oh, you do get that at the top of the page.
A little bit, yeah. And that's throughout the whole book. Like, there's a little bit of...
Very nice.
Again, on there at the bottom there. So yeah, there you go. You can see like a little bit. And that's what I absolutely love about the physical books. And it does have it on D&D Beyond as well, is that they have this sort of character through the thing, so it's trying to emulate a feeling and stuff, and I wouldn't have noticed it otherwise, and other than having this interview with her. So yeah, I saw it with Wild Beyond the Witch, because I was like, oh yeah, butterfly wings, that makes sense. And then here I'm like, ooh, dragon scale. So it has that feeling of like, well, I mean, obviously it's about dragons. And I'll say the interesting thing, when I got this book today, I got it from my local gaming shop, which is Orc's Nest, which I think most people who go to London will have heard of. Lovely little shop. It was interesting. So the person on the desk said, obviously that Fizban's was very popular. Like pretty much everyone today who went in got a Fizban book, and she believes that this will be the most successful D&D source book this quarter, even though Strixhaven's is coming out in a few weeks' time. And she said the reason why she thought that was because she thinks Strixhaven, because it's a third-party content, because it's Magic the Gathering, people don't go for that sort of thing. Like she said, previous third-party stuff. So I think she was referring to like Ravnica, Theros,
Eberron.
maybe even Acquisitions Incorporated stuff. They said it doesn't sell that well because people don't know the setting that well for D&D. But
that's interesting. But a book about dragons for Dungeons and Dragons feels like it would sell.
She said she's like it makes sense because it's dragons, and I was like, yeah, absolutely.
It's the half that I've heard the joke a lot on the internet, and I have partaked in that joke that there's a heck of a lot of dungeons and not a lot of dragons in my Dungeons and Dragons. Apart from if you watch Dragon's Duel, there's a lot of dragons in that because that's part of our game. We like literally make it about dragons, and this is why I love this book, because it's literally like all of you might if you read this book you might see some things happening in season 3 that relate to it. But it's but yeah, I think back to the idea that Strixhaven was her, as I said to you in our chat, that I just feel that it's Harry Potter for D&D.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna buy it, right? That's what I want it because I want to have Harry Potter in D&D because
there's this thing about having it's like having magical schools dedicated to that sort of thing. Like, I mean, that's been going since time immemorial.
Yeah.
But to have it sort of codified as here's an example you can use, and certainly the Unearthed Arcana for this different colleges of Strixhaven it's really cool as well. But I think it's interesting because obviously we've grown up with Harry Potter. And I thought to myself, like, looking at like Ravnica didn't really appeal to me. I've got the book. I've never really Theros did appeal to me because it's all about Greek myths and legends, but maybe people aren't into that. Again, that's for we'll talk about Strixhaven when that eventually comes out, and no doubt I'll be going, it's not in the shop again. But yes, going back to Fizban. So I guess if we start a little bit at the beginning, because that's the bit I've read. So it's I think it's an interesting book because, and the last couple of source books, maybe it's just me in Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of these books, they're not meant for players per se. They're meant for DMs. They're meant for people running games and stuff. And then the first 2 chapters of this, I think there's a mixture of players and DMs, and then the rest of it is DMs. So the first 2 chapters are about character creation. They're just sort of codifying the different draconic races that came out in Unearthed Arcana.
Yep.
And then the Dragon Magic, which also came out in the Unearthed Arcana as well, about these sort of new spells that you can put in. And I think they're great looking at it. So, yeah, just having a quick look at
So I'll go to the chapter 1, character
please.
creation.
Whilst I'll get my notes up as well. I will say there's obviously the bit at the beginning about the allegory for the first world, which I love that. Talking about how... Because you were saying before, like, there's lots of dungeons but not many dragons, but actually I think it gives a good example of what that is. It's like, they are myths and legends and you can put them in because they're such powerful creatures.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know how you've ever sort of seen... dragons, or how you, well, obviously you're the dragon guy, to be fair, but I've always seen dragons as very big, forceful cats, like Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. That's sort of like, and
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's like they could easily, I guess younger dragons, they could easily like knock things off the mantelpiece because they can.
I see like wormlings and stuff like that, but when it comes to like Smaug and it's those sorts of, that's the sort of characters that come to mind when it's like your ancient dragon, that really like deep talking, hello, what are you doing in my lair sort of thing, that sort of thing. Yeah, and just covetous and miserly, Scrooge McDuck sort of. Oh my god,
amazing. Yeah.
But that sort of, that's how I've always thought. But the thing is, like, there's a really good one actually. There's a really good one in the Drizzt novel that's quite fun when he pretends to be a dragon in human form to trick another dragon. It's quite a good little moment actually. It's very good, and because he uses some knowledge he knows of another dragon that's like its rival.
I think it's interesting because D&D is a combat game.
Yeah.
At some point, you maybe as a player you expect to fight a dragon.
Yeah.
And I've played in campaigns where currently, touch wood, never had to do that. And what's great about this book, which we'll go on to, is that it gives such a wealth of knowledge. It's like, hey, they're not just these one-dimensional creatures that breathe a breath weapon and have a hoard, and that you go and sort of sling your hook at it and try and kill it. You can have it's not, you could either go in, have a fight, or have a social encounter. Because these creatures are smart and they can easily take you out. And I think one line I took from that sort of beginning bit was that what did I write down? The dragons are living embodiments of primordial energies, and I like that as a concept. I know obviously we go on to sort of, like you said, the chromatic, metallic, and gemstone dragons, but I just thought that sort of summarised what these are almost even unknowable, almost like Cthulhu-esque in a way that they are something that can't be controlled. You would never be able to tame a dragon. You would not be able to train a dragon even.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing to get across, is that these things are majestic, but they're so dangerous.
It's a bit, but just like a lot of the animals that we interact with, this whole, people try and go and pet lions and bears. They just can't help it. And they see them as... No, they can't. Like, literally, people, there's a whole thing about it, this transfixedness that they think they are big cuddly cats and big cuddly dogs, and they're not. They are terrifying beasts that will rip you to shreds. And it's just... and I think that's the same... This is on a grander scale. I also read... This is the song... Because I was interested, why are there dragons everywhere? Like, we have dragons in Anglo-Saxon history, as well as Chinese history, as well as lots of other sort of worldwide. It is a common theme, is dragons. And I thought, well, is it because of dinosaurs? And one of the theories was that actually a dragon is a mix of all the scary things that we were scared of when we were like primal, humanoids ourselves. So it's got the slithering snake tail. It's got the lioness sort of stance and haunch, and the sort of bat-like wings that we used to be quite scared of, these bats, and then the sort of lizard-like faces. And that's why it was, and it's the lizard tiger mix for some of them, that sort of. So it's just this. The thing is, they take on and embody all our fears. In some ways, it's a bestial fears, that is, as in that were sort of attacking us. So they're sort of an ultimate beast. That's how they're kind of created. Their sort of physiology.
I love that. I think that's so because you think of stuff like sphinxes or chimera and stuff like that, and to me they seem more monstrous in quotation marks. But yeah, I love that idea. And like you said, there's the different depictions of dragons. Obviously, like you sort of mentioned Anglo-Saxon, but yeah, Chinese dragons and that mythology. Like they're so cool because when we did an episode on dragons way back in the early days of DM's book club, and I believe gold dragons were based on an Asian stuff. So these very long, almost like, I can't remember the creature's name now, but the dream dragon from the Neverending Story.
Yes.
Falcorn.
Yes.
But obviously with the Asian influences of like the long beard and all that sort of thing. I was just like, that's, again, for me, that obviously that's not my take on a dragon, but I was like, I want to put that in my games. Because it's just a different way of looking at it is a completely different way of thinking of dragons. It is more lizard-like. It's longer. It's not compact like you said, like a dinosaur and that sort of thing. So I highly recommend looking into like different cultures' interpretations of dragons and their artwork as well.
Exactly.
Like, Asian artwork is gorgeous of dragons. I love
100%.
it.
Yeah, seriously, that's the thing. So it's kind of, they are fantastical creatures, and that's how I always see them. I see them as like the be all and end all of the material planes ultimate beast. Because when you go beyond the planes, then you just get into some crazy crap. just goes beyond. But when you're some of the ones in this take them into that realm, with Draco liches and stuff like that. But I think the dragon is your ultimate beast. That's
definitely. I think you're right. If you're not like, we're gonna go into like you said, like Mind Flayer territory, or Astral Dreadnought territory, or the devils, or something. This is like, here's something that's, I guess, not even supernatural. I think that's the thing. So, like, you think like devils and stuff like that, it's like something beyond that you might not know about. Whereas dragons, I don't know. You're right. There's something about it like going, ooh, that exists.
It does, because they kind of do exist. Because like dinosaurs existed, and they're close to that, and it feels doable. It feels buildable, if you know what I mean.
I definitely see it as if you aren't, because obviously we've thrown loads of stuff out at the listeners in this podcast. We're like, Mind Flayers are great. This is great. And if that sounds like a lot, narrow it down to literally dragons. And I'd say I will say I've only read half this book, because I've only had it briefly.
Sorry.
No. But I will say, because one of our earliest episodes we did was on giants. And giants and dragons have this, not rivalry, this hate relationship between. They are deadly enemies. So again, I highly recommend, because giants are great. I love giants as a result. And so having that relationship, that the dragons were almost died out by the giants and vice versa, and this ongoing thing. So again, having giants, which again, for me, I really hard struggle to visualize giants until someone goes, it's as tall as, like, where you are in this building now, like I'm on the first floor, that's gonna be like up to half I don't know, like a not a stone giant, but like an ogre or something like that. And I'm like, I now visualize that, that sort of thing. So that, I think both those things, you can easily put that in a world and have them as big ending campaign monsters, or even midway through, because I think there is something great about them that is, I guess, grounded in reality, in quotation marks, in this reality.
There's a bit of a buzz whenever you come across one in a Dungeons and Dragons game. It's just like, and then you hear these wings blowing in the wind, and you just like,
dragon.
Boom, boom, sort of sound in the tea cup goes.
Yeah. It's just, it's proper Jurassic Park, like
Jurassic Park style. But you just, that's it. Like, it's visceral, and it feels like, we're gonna fight a dragon in Dungeons and Dragons. That's what you're meant to do. Like, I've been in the dungeon, now I'm gonna fight the dragon.
And then it's like, oh my god, we've done it. The end of the game. Credits roll.
Well, exactly.
Absolutely. Well, we'll move on then to character creation. So in this first chapter, it talks about the draconic races, the subclass options, Heroes of the Dragon, and Draconic feats. So 3 of those, so 1, 2, and 4, they came in the Unearthed Arcana, which I thought I'd look at. And it introduces this 3 types of Dragonborn, metallic, chromatic, and gemstone. And so Dragonborns obviously were originally in the player's handbook, and now it's like, here's here's different types of them, so you can actually specialise in different things, which is really cool. So, getting my notes out. Starting from the top, so we've got metallic dragons. So these ones are obviously come from quote-unquote good dragons. So you've got your metal kind of ones. So, you've got your brass, bronze, copper, gold, silver. What's cool about these folks, when you're playing them as a Dragonborn, you get 2 breaths, essentially. So you have all Dragonborns get their initial breath weapon, which you choose at the beginning. And then you also have, for the metallic ones, you have an additional breath weapon that you get at level 5. And that you can choose one of the following. So it's, and I'm not going to pronounce these right at all, Hamilton. So one of them is repulsion breath. So each creature within the cone must make a strength saving throw, or be pushed back 20 feet and be knocked prone, which is pretty good. And then enervating breath, I think.
Enervating.
Enervating, thank you very much. See, this is why I need you on this. Each creature in the cone must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or become incapacitated to the start of your next turn. So I think that's really interesting, and you get that at 5th level. So so what I'd say with that, with the breath weapons for all of them, is that in the Unearthed Arcana it was a D8, and now they've been upgraded to D10. Which I find interesting. So like a little bit extra, I guess, because people, I guess it makes sense you might want to use your breath for flavour. The other thing, which has a massive change, I think, is metallics. Oh, I've skipped ahead. That's silly.
You've gone to metallic first. I've
gone to metallic. That's fine. But it's so it's still the same, that one. But yeah, sorry. Going back to chromatic. So this the biggest one I found. So the chromatic ones are obviously black, blue, green, red, and white. So again, and they've got the associated powers there. So they have something called chromatic warding. So at 5th level, as an action, you can channel your draconic energy to protect yourself. So for 1 minute, you become immune to the damage type associated with your chromatic ancestry. Really, really useful. And you can use it once per long rest. In the original Unearthed Arcana, you got that at 3rd level, and it lasted for 10 minutes.
Wow. Could
you imagine?
Well, I don't know. I mean, how many combats go beyond 10 rounds?
I think, in my head, this definitely felt like an environmental, you have to get through the volcano ASAP. And so
then that's what I mean. So then that makes it more useful, I guess. But I guess maybe not. But maybe it's too OP. I think 3rd level's too low. But I think 5th level, 10 minutes.
Fine. 10 minutes.
I think I'd be happy with 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But 1 minute's fine. I mean, I get it. But I think, if you are literally Dragonborn and you are blowing fire out your mouth, it feels like you should be able to run through some fire.
I feel like you should. I mean, it doesn't really say. Oh, you do have resistance. You have draconic resistance to the type that associated with you. So if you are a red Dragonborn, you will be resistant to fire.
Yeah.
But then immune to fire.
I know, but that's what I kind of feel. Oh, maybe but I feel like. 10,
I'm surprised. Like I thought 10 minutes would stay actually.
Yeah.
But I agree that getting up to 5th level makes sense. But it gone down to 1 minute, and I was like, that's a big shame. Going on to gem dragons, and when I was talking about these ones before, I mean the image of them is gorgeous. The one thing I think I've told you this before. The one thing I despise so much is being able to fly, which makes total sense.
You
for
said
dragons.
this so many times, but they don't get to fly they only get to fly for a minute.
They do in the original. I think it was the same. I can't remember. But
Probably
yeah,
was
but again, and I think it was earlier on they got it in the Unearthed Arcana. But level 5, you get spectral wings that last for a minute, and you can fly around and stuff. So that's quite good.
You hate flying. I know how much you hate flying. It's hilarious.
But I think obviously draconic resistance, psionic mind, so you can send telepathic messages, which is always useful.
Also, the damage types are good because force damage is OP every time. You know, and if you're going to be going into Ravenloft, having radiant damage is always useful. So.
Just saying, right? Yes. So with the gem ancestry here, so you've got amethyst, which is force, crystal, which is radiant, emerald, which is psychic, sapphire, which is thunder, and topaz, which is necrotic. I can't remember. Topaz isn't. What colour is topaz?
I don't know my gems very well.
I don't know, because I thought topaz was like a pinky colour. I'm gonna. This is bad on my front as well, because I think topaz isn't my birthstone. I can't remember off the top of my head. Topaz.
Sapphire's mine.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Yeah. Thunder.
Oh, topaz is sort of a. Hang on, let me go onto the Wikipedia.
Is it green?
Page. I don't. Oh, now it's now I've got an image of. No, it's like an ambery type color.
Okay.
On thing. Anyway, so yeah, I would assume it would be green as well because necrotic or a darker black perhaps, but anyway, but yeah. So overall, they're all pretty much as the Unearthed Arcana. The only real difference is that the damage for the breath weapons have gone up, which is pretty good, I think. Because I would want to.
It doesn't feel. Yeah, it never felt really worthwhile being a Dragonborn sometimes, I think, in terms of like the benefit of that breath weapon. It 1d8 doesn't feel enough. I think 1d10 feels much more
absolutely
punchy.
And again, the only thing to mention is obviously if you're chromatic, your breath is in a line, and the gem and the metallic, it's a cone breath. Essentially, that's the only slight difference. But that's the thing. So the cone ones are only 15 feet. So you have a bigger reach. Smaller. You have to all line up.
Line up. What's this one's up? Cool. Right. Okay. That's kind of cool.
Cool. And quickly going on to the subclasses. Now, I will say, the Way of the Ascendant Dragon, which is a monk subclass, sounds pretty fucking cool.
Can I say my favourite bit is it goes my favourite Ascendant Dragon months. My favourite Ascendant Dragon months all narrate their bodily attacks aloud with fun onomatopoeias, like swish kapow. And I was like, I love that because that's just like giving like proper like just what's it Batman kapow, and then boff and stuff like that. I just love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. I think definitely inspiration if a monk does that. Stuff. Yeah. So with this one, again you get another really good table. It's this idea that you and you either have been sort of infused or blessed in some way. I loved what's the one I put down? Oh yeah, a dragon has personally taken upon an active role in shaping your inner energy. It's like no, let me so there we go.
No, it is. I thought they were quite cool. I think they had a lot of good flavour. There was they get some good tricks as well, don't they? They get Breath of the Dragon.
Yep.
So they get to basically do a 20-foot cone.
Well, 20-foot cone or a line. They can.
Yeah,
choose.
they get So they get basically a breath weapon additional, and they also get to fly.
Yeah. I mean, because they do have Step of the Wind, which is pretty amazing anyway, but being able to fly on top of that is good. I was wondering, with the breath weapon, can you change which one it is? Does it say that anywhere?
You can raise one of the attacks with an exhalation of draconic in either a 20-foot cone or a 30-foot line. Your choice.
But if you... how many times you can do this? You can do it... feature this number of times equal to your proficiency bonus.
Yeah, proficiency bonus, that's it, yeah.
So, I wonder if you could change it each time. Or you have to pick one.
You can spend 2 key points to use this feature again as well.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. You could just use it on every every attack. So that's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. And yeah, like you said, later on as well, you can get augment breath, which means you can change the shape and power of it. So it becomes either a 60-foot cone or a 90-feet line. So you can even you're running away.
Yeah, or you're just on. You've got a top of the staircase, and they're all running up at you. Just there you go.
Yeah. I also like with the aspect of the worm. So this is a level 11 feature. You get frightful presence as well.
Yeah, I like that. I kind of flavour that you sort of your face changes into some sort of dragon shape, like whoa, like really you go for like a real draconic look. I think that could be quite cool.
That because. Frightful presence is definitely one of the big things I remember. Obviously, you got dragons that can fly, and they've got breath weapon. But yeah, frightful presence because that's scary because the save is so high. So to make you as a player have that is pretty, that's pretty badass.
It is pretty cool.
Do you want to talk about then the Drake Warden then as a subclass?
Yes, the Drake Warden is cool. So it's basically Beastmaster but focused, if you know what I mean. That's how I see it, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's Beastmaster focus on dragons. So you get you get to speak draconic. That's sort of your first, but you get to bond with a drake. Which is creates a connection of dragonkind, granting you understanding, empowering you presence to gain the following business. So you get a drake companion. As an action, you can magically summon the drake that is bound to you. It appears in an unlocked space of your choice within 30 feet. It's friendly and it acts just like all other companions, really. But
it's friendly.
It has a stat. It's friendly. It has a stat block, and you can use it like your companion.
Small dragon. Yes.
Yeah, it's basically a small dragon, but it gets cooler. Because you get at 7th level, you can mount it, but it can't fly. Yep. Which I kind of think is like, what's the point in mounting a dragon if you can't fly it? But whatever. Yes, I get it. It's
like in my head at that point, it's like a little bearded dragon that gets a little bit bigger. So then
I mean, what a cool way to enter town, like on the back of a dragon. But it gets a bit more. You get to. It gains resistance to the damage type chosen for the draconic essence as well, so you gain some benefits like that. So if its cone is being thrown around, you don't get in as much trouble. And then you can also exhale some breath at 11th level, and then you can fly at 15th level, which I think is a fair level to fly at. I think 10th level probably would be a fair level to fly at. But yeah, it becomes, and they grow in size, so it gets more damage, and you get more resistance, and that's basically it. Really, it's a very cool ranger because it's got a dragon added to it, and that's all that rangers really needed, it seems.
But that's the thing. Like we were talking before about I'm going to say his name wrong, Minsk and Boo, and obviously in the was it the Order of Bahamut?
Yes.
The other person in that whose name has escaped me just now, so she has obviously a dragon, and I think she's got a bow in the image. I can't remember off the top of my head. But that's the thing. As a ranger, you could have with a bow, but then flying on a bloody dragon. That you're like, this is the coolest you've ever looked.
Pretty much.
Any range attacks. That's how I see it for me. Like, having the ability to fly. That's nothing to do with a magic item you're wearing or having a concentration spell on you. Yeah. Or you're not having. It's not your action per se. It's another creature's action. That's always very, very helpful, I think. And having a dragon on that front is really cool. And just looking at it, like you said, you can choose what essence it is. From acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison. I think the one I wouldn't choose is poison. Just because I know at later levels, everyone's resistant to poison.
Yeah, you are right. It's a bit like fire as well, is that a lot of things are resistant to fire, as generally, isn't it? That's kind of right, isn't it?
Having a cold or lightning one would be pretty... I'd like that. That'd be pretty cool.
Or going for one of the gem ones, like Radiant and Necrotic, which is always useful, I think, depending on where you are. Like... if you're in an undead world, you want Radiant.
Radiant! Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Just to quickly go on then to Heroes of the Dragon.
Yeah.
A very small section. It just talks about basically having ties with, ways to tie in. So if you're a sorcerer who has draconic magics as your origin source, or if you want to give more of a background. And this is something I'm going to bring into when we talk about the role-playing dragons thing. As you and I both know, wizards love their tables. No problem with that. I just feel some of these sections are lacking a little bit and they rely too much on tables. And I wouldn't mind a bit more writing just to flesh it out a tiny bit.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, as you said, it is for GMs who also, that's part of the game, isn't it? I guess in some respects, that sort of, that gives us little things and then we write the additional bit. But I do agree. I think it is something that, as you said, lacks sometimes quite a bit in Wizards books, is that it would be nice just to have some really more good examples of things.
I think it's interesting. So obviously you and I, when we run our game stuff, we do rely heavily, I guess, on the storytelling aspects and the role play aspects, and not every GM or DM is comfortable with that, and I again respect that. But I think having a big section on how do you role play villains, how do you roleplay dragons, and it's a little bit more detailed. So, well, here's some stuff you can do. Have you thought about this? And there's like always books and improv and stuff, which you'd be like, here's some character stuff. If you have a bit more character stuff in that'd be cool. So like obviously here it talks about ties with your character to draconic stuff. And I also like looking at always are really good, and they say which which class they can be tied to. I do quite like number 9, which says, I recently discovered a person I love and trusted was a dragon in disguise. And I like, mother? Mother!
That's when the quadruple take can come in.
Yeah, exactly. What? That's definitely that's an in joke between me and Hamilton, but I recommend.
We will watch. I just showed the quadruple take to Fee earlier. That's why.
Yeah. So search Patrick Stewart quadruple take on YouTube, and you won't be disappointed.
If you haven't seen it, yeah, exactly, it's amazing.
Pretty good.
I will probably have put it in right now for that moment.
This, the quadruple take, is in a different category altogether, but it's the only one I know, and you'll be glad to hear that I don't have anything beyond the quadruple take. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Her buttons are the best.
But yeah, no, they are great, and I mean, yeah, I'm totally up for this idea. I mean, we visited the mausoleum of Crenepsis, which comes up a couple of times, but they never put it in here. You know what I mean? Like, they never really talk. Like, Crenepsis is super cool, and actually, there's so much lore around Crenepsis as a dragon. Did you know about Crenepsis much?
I don't. Please. Well, sorry. I mean, rephrase that. I know everything about it, but for the viewers and listeners at home, what do you explain to them?
So yeah, Crenepsis, and they mention it goes like lives on the Outlands, and they've become immortal. And in some, this thing, it does talk about like different realities have different religious theories on the dragons, and some dragons are higher up and lower up. Like this doesn't even talk about Eo and Ao at all, which are even supposedly in my mind, I've always had Eo and Ao are the higher sort of god dragons,
really,
the super god dragons, and then Tiamat and Bahamut are the more like physical manifestations of each of them. But anyway, and I've always had that Crenepsis is seen as it says in this, seen as the god of fate, but is not. It's just a dragon who's been able to find because it talks about dragons being able to find the consciousnesses of themselves on all the planes. They have a thing called dragonsight, which is the ability to see. So there's true sight, and then dragonsight is being able to see your realities. So all the realities of your, because these dragons are always expressed on every single plane, even if that isn't actually in a draconic form. In some, because they may not actually, they might appear as a lizard or a dragonborn or something. But and so some of those have been able, with the heightened dragon sight, to not only gain more power, but also to sort of, some of them have gone around destroying their other existences to get themselves more powerful.
Again, if folks have seen Loki season 1, obviously, I can't remember what he's called at the end, but it's similar sort of thing where there's these. They're described as echoes, aren't they? Like, echoes of these dragons in different places, and they are, again, later on when creating dragons, you can create their echoes, and they are the same but not the same, and all that sort of thing. And I think that's so cool to customize how you see dragons and stuff, because I'm always a big fan of, like, here's some examples that you can just take and use, but also make your own, but also here's some ways you can customize it, because I think the more stuff like that, the better, because you're not limited. Maybe people are overwhelmed by choice, perhaps, but then I think I always go, oh, that interests me, I'm going to go off and make my own thing from that, so using that as a springboard.
I think that's the thing. But yeah, as I was saying, like, my point with the Crenepsis thing was, like, the place where Crenepsis live, they didn't even mention it, which is, it's a ruinous city that he is an ever decaying body of a dragon, like this black dragon, humongous, and every single soul of a dragon or dragon kind, so dragonborns, is represented in this city as an hourglass. How cool is that place? So I took people there in one of our Dragonslayers games because I was like, that's fucking cool. And I've done it. But it's like, and so there's like, I just imagined it as all these like broken temples that have got a temple to all the great dragons. So I've made little temples for lots of famous dragons in when I went there. And I was just thinking, like, why is that not in this? Do you know what I mean? It's a great book. That's what I'm saying. But when your point of like giving examples of things, it'd be nice there's that, isn't there? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess.
Shall I
maybe
shut up
it's
now?
No,
You're doing really well, Wizards.
No. I think it's. I guess it's interesting because obviously they have got loads of people writing all this stuff. Like, I'm lead writer James Watt. I think that's how you pronounce it. And then you've got obviously loads of people working on it. So it's like almost like putting in all the stuff, but some stuff gets cut out in the end. So maybe like what makes dragons accessible to everyone, and thinking about what people want, and people do want to create their own dragons and stuff, but for me, I get to that point now going, I could have guessed some of this perhaps. I guess again, maybe who is this book for? And it's coming back to that saying, what are these books for? Are they for experienced GMs or are they for new GMs? And I think one thing I'm getting more and more is that they want more and more people to get into DMing and GMing, and so it's maybe it is at a level where you're like, oh yeah, I can take that and run. But I wonder if we've got to that point now in Dungeons and Dragons for you and I, who are like, well, we know how to run the game, we know how to customize stuff, and we're happy to fail with it. We want more examples of more in-depth stuff just to tickle our fancy and stuff, because there's obviously when we looked at like Ghost Walk, for example, a lot of that is just lore. Yeah. And you can take all of it, you can take a bit of it, and it was fascinating, you know.
I think the thing is, and I think going on that point, and it's different conversation, but it's fine, is that a lot of people get into Dungeons and Dragons and TTRPGs, love fantasy, sci-fi, and the biggest part of sci-fi, well, sci-fi particularly, and fantasy is the allegorical nature, the fact that they've got these really interesting high concept theories that present themselves, and therefore when you turn up to Dungeons and Dragons a lot of the time, it's lacking a lot of that. It's just giving you background for you to create your own, which is great, which is perfectly fine. But sometimes we want more of that, like you were talking about the Alien RPG. That's a fantastic world. What a setting. What a fantastic, thought point. People created these super alien, things that go off and kill. It's like, we just want more of the lore. I think the lore they've got is amazing. As I said, like Mausoleum of Crenepsis is a fantastic place. Like, I don't know, just give some people some more of these. Like we're talking Domains of Dread and Domains of Delight. Give us 5. Give us just or 10 or something like that.
I mean, there's so many Domains of Dread. They did like a whole book on it, and some of them.
That's true. They did do that actually.
But there's only like small. Sometimes they're only as small as a page, and some of them have more. And that I'm all for that. But there wasn't any for the Domains of Light just yet. I assume maybe there will be, its own source books. Obviously, this is like, oh, we're now going to go into this territory. But actually, think about it. Going back to, I'm going to say his name wrong again, Minsk and Boo, the Journal of Villainy. They had their 4 hometowns. Obviously, and they have Baldur's Gate, Waterdeep. You're like, okay, traditional towns, I guess. And then you had the 2 others that are in a tree in the Shadowfell, underground, and you're like. But those were quite short in comparison to the other ones, because they were like, oh, you can just take them and do it. And you're like, no. Write
really
more about
just. Them. I think that's it, because as well, people are busy. Do you know what I mean?
And like, tired.
No, but I think that. But it's not just that. But it's also just like they've got fantastic writers. Write. Give us more, and we will. I think we will consume it. Yeah, exactly. Because I love those cities, even the ones that were on the land, like Ashtkala, which had that sort of its case system with the sort of with the very highly
different metals,
yeah, exactly, and it being it's a very gauche, nasty city, but it had so much depth to it that you're just like, well, I want to go there and have people hate it, it's kind of great, and. I don't know.
I mean, like a Sword Coast Adventurer guide, which I don't know if you've read a bit of. I've read bits of it, and that's been interesting because that obviously has a potted history of all sort of stuff around the Sword Coast, but it's written from different points of view, as if it's 5 different people in it.
Yeah.
So like the bit about Candlekeep is from an elf ranger who's been in there and stuff like that, and that's all fine, but. I guess because they were like, oh, it's about their personal view, and I'm like, I prefer just like a bit more of a objective, like here's the things you could do. Like the great thing with the Minsk and Boo one was like here's the population, it's about 80% humans, but like anything like that, like a quick cheat sheet, and then lots of stuff in
the
it.
Critical Role ones.
Yeah, Critical Role
Again,
was very
fantastic.
detailed.
Like,
Yeah.
and and everyone had a little adventure. Everyone had
Yes.
that's actually a bloody good one. The town story setting and the Wildmount one. Here's cities. Here's who lives there. Here's the key functions and what it has.
Yeah.
And that's a great book if you're looking for it's inspiration finders. That's it. Because
That's it, yeah.
also not all GMs some of us are more interested in creating fantastic homebrew items. Some of us are interested in making homebrew monsters and aren't interested in, and then some love making their own lands and their own places. But it's trying to, I think, as you said, we've gone on a major tangent on this, but it's back to the Planescape point in the DMs Guild that Shadowfell is that big.
Yeah.
And you're like,
tiny as a result.
there's like Shadowkai, and they do a little bit on the Shadowkai in Modern Kainans and stuff like that, but you got to find that. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, to finish off this segment, I completely agree. I think it's that sort of thing where there's, as DMs, we find different ways of doing it. And of course, the DMs Guild is there. But,
that's very true,
the wizards don't have to do it. You could do your own, and people have done their own. So that I mean, it's that sort of thing where we go, something is lacking, therefore we should go do something about it. Which I think
that's the thing, like the Gehenna one I said last week. I was like, I want Gehenna, I want the Walking City, and but I haven't got the time. But I want to do it. You don't have the time,
but people have put it up there. So
I'm sure people have.
It is that something just to look it up. But I think coming back to Fizban, I think. And I think I have mentioned it before on a podcast, whether it's my own, I can't remember. But some people obviously buy books to run games from, and some people just buy books to read.
Oh,
and, and I think that's the thing. These books obviously are made for people who play and run Dungeons and Dragons, and less so for people who read about it. So I think that's the key distinction here. So whilst we think we're like, oh, this would be great if this was in there, I'm sure other people would agree, and then they've put stuff on DMs. So I think it's give or take, but obviously
it is, and and I think to clarify, it is a really good book, and it's got lots of great stuff. It's just that could be another chapter.
And then and I agree. Like looking at like Dragon's Magic again, very similar to the Unearthed Arcana, pretty much bit for bit essentially. And using famous dragons. The only one I wanted to really point out is again a dragon I can't pronounce. It's the Ralothin Psychic Lance. So I remembered last time when I talked about this. So essentially, you unleash a shimmering lance of psychic power from your forehead at a creature that you can see within range. Alternatively, you can utter a creature's name if the target is within range, so 120 feet. It becomes the spell's target even if you can't see it, so it gains no advantage from cover or anything like that. And then it says, if the named target isn't within range, the lance dissipates without effect. In the Unearthed Arcana, there's a second part to that last sentence, which said, the lance disappears without effect, and the spell slot is not wasted. That's a level 4, so you could just be going around shouting people's names. And hope, like, almost like Marco Polo.
I love that. Marco Polo! Dave!
Dave!
Anne!
Dave! Yeah, shouting it. So that has been taken out. I remember having a good chuckle about that, because it's a 7. It was, I think it was like 10d6 psychic damage in the thing. It's now 7d6 psychic damage, and is incapacitated at the start of your next turn if it takes it. So can you imagine not wasting your spell slot if it doesn't hit? It's only a level 4, but still that's still a lot of damage, and that incapacitated could be really things. But that made me laugh that they had actually taken that second part out.
That's very good. That is very good. Awesome. That's very cool. Well, I'm going to say that they've been clearly watching Dragon's Duel, because they've put in draconic transformation.
Yes.
As a spell, because I needed it and they didn't have it, so I just had to make up some crazy ritual that Caraptus came up with. But draconic transformation. There you go. You can do it. You can become a dragon. For only a minute, though, is not great. But then you just got true polymorph if you really want to really go for it.
To go for it, absolutely.
But that's very cool. There's also, the other one I liked was Nethair's Mischief, just because I like the name.
Yes, Nethair's Mischief. I think I wrote something about that one as well.
You can fill a 20-foot cube with a Fey draconic magic, roll the mischievous surge table to determine the magical effect produced. And it's like, The smell of apple pie fills the air, and each creature in the cube must succeed in a wisdom saving throw or become charmed by you. And this bouquet of flowers appears all around, and each creature must succeed in a dexterity saving throw or be blinded as the flowers spray water in their faces.
Yeah, this is exactly the same from Unearthed Arcana. So you're like, again, brilliant, but also again because it's that sort of debuffy type thing.
Yeah.
As a level 2 as well. That's quite a nice one to get as well. And I love that. That's again mischief tables. It's very similar. When this episode goes out, it's been a couple of weeks, but recently released on DM's Book Club a bonus episode with my friend Greg, who we talked about Dungeon Crawl Classic. I always get it the wrong way around. And that is interesting because when you cast spells, I think I've told you this before, you roll a d20. Every spell is a roll, essentially. The higher you get, the more successful it is, to the point of it being too successful. So, like, if you're spider climb, you and the party grow spider legs, that sort of thing. But you do a lot of rolling to customize everything about it, and that like it's everything is completely random as a result. So that's taking it to the extreme. So that's why I quite like seeing that in spells like that. Going, oh, it's a D4. See what you get as a surge for the spell. Actually I like that unpredictability, because you don't know what you're gonna do. I'm gonna cast a spell. I'm gonna hope for the best. Am I gonna charm them? I'm gonna blind them. You know,
it's gonna be one of them.
It's gonna be one of them. Yeah. Are they gonna become incapacitated? You know, or all that sort of thing. Or is it going to be difficult terrain? You know, and you don't know. So I quite like that as a spell. I think it's really cool.
It's good. It is good. There's a little bit of wild magic for you if you need it, sort of thing, which is quite good. Components: a piece of crust from an apple pie. Yeah.
Shall I tell you some of my favourite magic items though?
Yes, go on then. Tell me something.
First of all, an emerald pen. That comes up. So that is a wondrous item. This pen is tipped with an emerald nib and requires no ink to write. Whilst holding the pen, you can cast illusory script at will. So it's very much like, I don't know if you've seen the new Pictionary out, but they have a pen that is Bluetooth to your TV, and you have to stand away from the TV and draw it out.
I have seen it. Yeah.
That's what I think. Oh, it's like
cool.
Magic Pen from was it Playground or something like that, where you're like I can't remember.
Yeah. Oh, Magic. Yes, that was. That's brought me back.
Sorry.
There were other good ones. I like the gold canary figurine of wondrous power.
I know. Again, very obviously Baphomet is surrounded by golden dragons, and there's an image later on where he's surrounded by like 7 gold canaries. So I assume that's where that's from. But this idea that it's just a fuck off massive canary. Yeah,
it's a massive canary, and then you can use it when you can while you're missing half or more of your hit points. You can speak a different command word, and it becomes an adult gold dragon for up to 1 hour. But then you cannot use this again for 1 year has passed. That's kind of cool. So this is kind of like your, all right, I think we're dying. Break out the dragon.
Get the dragon out. Yeah,
crush the canary. Just like smash the canary to the ground, and Pokemon style. And this massive gold dragon.
It's very much like Digimon, isn't it? Where they're like, no, final form. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, level up. Whoop, 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 whoop. Sorry.
I love that. I quite liked. I actually like the Topaz Annihilator. So this is the first time I've seen a magical musket style weapon. So essentially, it is. It's a musket, but in lieu of any ammunition, it holds a glowing scale from the topaz from a topaz at its heart. So in my head, it's like, as a musket, but it's sort of just almost like as a sight, perhaps, just there. And it has a normal range of 100 to 300 feet. Two-handed, deals 2d6 necrotic damage on a hit. And if it reduces a creature or an object to 0 hit points, it is reduced to dusk. And it cannot be restored to life only by true resurrection or a wish spell.
That's pretty. And the disintegrate spell, once per short rest, which is a 6th level spell.
Disintegrate is horrific.
Horrific.
Yeah.
10d6 plus 40.
Yeah.
Force damage.
It's fucking brutal. Don't be on the wrong side of that.
Definitely not. Jeez. Yeah. What I find funny is it does 2d6 on just a hit, but then you can just disintegrate as a what, I don't know. It's kind of funny, really.
I was like, how injured did they look? Great. Get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
Well, I mean, max 100 damage. I mean, I really want to find that Topaz Annihilator right now in my Strahd game.
Weapon, firearm, legendary requires attunement, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very cool. And obviously there's other ones as well. Platinum Scarf, which again, I think is a great role-playing flavoursome one. So, beautiful scarf made of sturdy cloth and covered in platinum-coloured scales. So there's, I think it's called, the way I see it is like the robe of many things, which is like, what I imagine is like a dressing gown, but with like schoolboy or like Girl Scout patches on, which you rip off when they become stuff. This is obviously just scales, and I think more stuff like that is what we need. It, like you said, that idea of like what Fizban, that quote was saying, like, I love it when the monks animate or narrate their moves. It's like I know he's not very favourable just now, but Chris Pratt, he always he got told off for going pew 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 when he was shooting as Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's like pew 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 pew. Like, no, you can't do that. We're filming. But yeah, going back to the Platinum Scarf, you've got basically free scales before it has to be recharged on the next dawn. A Breath of Life. So you take the scale, you pull it off. The scale disappears, and you and one creature you touch regains 10d4 hit points. Good. I mean, that's great. Like, that's more than many. That's more than is it I can't remember. It's ultimate potion of healing, which is like 8d4. So that's pretty good. Platinum Shield. So for an hour or until you dismiss it, the shield becomes +1. So the scale comes up, and again, pretty beautiful. And then Radiant Hammer. The scale becomes a magic light hammer, which you and another creature can use, and again, more radiant damage and stuff. But hey, that's free, for an action. Free members of your party can get 10d4 healing, just pulling it off your scarf. That's pretty. That
is really good.
That could be really a proper lifesaver in a very hard battle. So yeah.
No, I love that. No, it's really good. I think there's some pretty awesome. There's some really good ones in there. I don't think many GMs would be giving those out, though. That's the only problem. That's the thing with these. You read them and go, yeah, but no one's going to give me that. Because that's so high-powered.
Can't find that in the bazaar.
Yeah, exactly. You see a scarf someone's left behind on the table. Oh, what is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been left in lost property.
Exactly. That just makes me think of Importance of Being Earnest.
Oh yeah, a handbag.
In a handbag?
A handbag.
And where did this charitable gentleman with the first-class ticket for the seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag.
That makes no sense to anyone probably outside of the UK, but that's fine.
Watch Importance of Being Earnest. It's a bloody great film. It's a great film.
Brilliant.
Yeah, Hoard magic items I think is good. I really like it's actually making awakened and growing stated magic items, which I think is positive. We love those from Vestiges of Divergence, which, as you know and I know, you can't do on DM's Guild because they're not canon to this, but they are now, so it's okay because
it's all fine.
They're but under a different name. But the whole slumbering, stirring, awakened, and ascendant is really cool. I really like that, and I like how that's flavoured. Talk about flavouring with the
and I think this is a perfect example of this. It's like, how do these items get in these states?
Yeah.
So the idea is obviously at the beginning they're slumbering because they're just added to the dragon's hoard. As we know, dragons love collecting things, whether it's through greed or it's just like, no, this is mine, and then if it goes for like stirring, which is like a young dragon, so if it's been in there for a year, it's been there for a century, all that sort of thing. And I think that's exactly what I like. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, like you said, it's just for the DM stuff just as an idea. But I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because then you'd be like, okay, this dragon's been around 50 years, so most things are going to be awakened or this. And I love this idea that it decreases in power as well if it's taken from the Horde. So you might be like, oh, this is an amazing thing, and then it just goes back to being not even normal, but
if it's not attuned, I think if you attune to it, you keep it, don't you? I think that's what it says.
Oh, is that what it says? Oh,
yeah. So just if no creature is attuned to a Horde item, that the item is and that item isn't in a Dragon's Horde, the item decreases. So it's not like, which is fortunate, because at least if you don't use it, and then suddenly you start losing the power.
So that's interesting. I guess if you were going to sell that sort of stuff, you'd have to sell it pretty quickly, because obviously it's like that sort of like, wait, it doesn't do what you said it did.
Exactly. Well, it's a bit. It always reminds me a bit of the Drow's magical items in the Drizzt novels again. I was pretty much read them, but when Drizzt comes out of the Underdark, his blades and his power shiwa, I don't know how you pronounce it, his cloak lose their power in the sunlight because they don't. So they become inert eventually. His blades, so they have a magical tendency which slowly decreases, and then the sort of shimmering cloak that sort of helps them, and his magic as well. He loses some of his magic because of being out in the sunlight. Which is just, I don't know. It's a similar sort of thing to that sort of power being held in a space, and maintaining that power is obviously loses it as you leave it.
And what's good about this as well, because obviously we've done another, not necessarily obviously, I don't know why I keep saying that, but we have done an episode on magic items and like what just comes up in, and not even a dragon's hoard, but you defeated a boss, what they got in their little hoard. What I like is that because you roll for stuff and sometimes it's like, oh, there's lots of art, and you're like, well, that's just a flavour something. But what I like is that it goes down to going, okay, it's an ornament or it's a piece of artwork. Here's some flavourings that you can do and you can describe. And I think it's nice to set it out like, here is a vessel, so something that's drinking. Here is a focus. I think I quite like that. As like, here's some examples. They did,
and this is the other thing, giving us some good examples of it, like the dragon vessels and all those things were really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's just nice to have that. And yeah, like, and then it's broken down, like you said, like into slumbering, stirring, awakening, and ascendance. So adding those things to it. So yeah.
I did like the quirks as well, the draconic quirks. Like the item's bearer can speak and understand draconic, for example, is one of them. Like there's another little bonus to it. It's quite nice. So
yeah. Again, making magic items and artifacts as well. Having that idea of a quirk or a personality attached to something works really well for these ones for sure. Like just having that dragon-esque sort of thing. And you, again, maybe something you never tell the rest of your party, but you're like, the dragon's whispering in your ear, so I know I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You're like, shush, looking at your cup that you've taken from the dragon, so I was like, shut up.
Yeah, no, these are really good. Draconic gifts, do you want to talk about these?
Yeah, I would say I love the quote at the top, which is, the proverb, don't look a draconic gift in the mouth. Some say it's because of the breath weapon, but really it's the smell.
That's very good.
I like that.
Very good.
Yeah, so this is quite cool because this idea that obviously on the death of a dragon, it can result in its power taking root within a character or a chosen heir or the dragon killer. So again, depending on what you're planning to do with dragons in your campaign, or what your players are planning to do, you can bestow gifts, and I would say in quotation marks here. But what I like, again, right at the beginning, is this sort of visualization of it's like, here's some dragon mark ideas. So like how you can how this person stands out from the other random people. So if you meet the big bad who's just killed a dragon, they could have a bit of their hair or a streak of it, which I always like, a very rogue, like from X-Men. Changes colour to match the dragon's colour of scales. Like, oh, I love that.
No, really cool. Really, I liked a lot of this. I think I've heard people talk about them, and I think they do come up similarly. That they're basically feats, but additional feats, and it even says you can use feats as alternate ones to DM's discretion. But they are really cool, and you get it gives you different uncommon, rare, very rare, and legendary, depending on the age of the dragon that's died. I like the idea, my thought as well, because, that's another thing. I read this and I go, like, I think dragons are really majestic. I don't like killing them. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not really a big fan of it. And maybe that's just me. And I just feel like I've got to that point where it's like, I don't want to just go around. It's that Shadow of the Colossus, I'm the bad person because I'm killing all these fantastically...
You're running behind them and then you're just, climbing up them and, stab.
Yeah, and it's just like, and actually you've just destroyed all these majestic things. But... I guess, but going with that Bahamut, the Order of Bahamut, if you've gone and tried to protect a dragon from being attacked, and then it's died, and you're there whilst you're trying to save it, and you gain this ability from it, some sort of spirit. That's kind of beautiful, and I think that's kind of lovely.
I agree, and again, just the way I do it, unless there was a big reason why you'd kill a dragon, I do see these things, as you said, like an additional story reward, so that you've completed something, you've fended off something or you've done something in the
Well, like the dragon, like Tiamat's come, in Cult. You've been playing Rise of Tiamat, or a Horde Queen, and you've had to fight, because it's been terrorizing in the villages and everything like that. That seems fair, and then you get a boon for completing.
Yeah, exactly. And I do. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think they are. You can treat them as feats, absolutely. So, but I think you can just get them. Yeah, you can get them whenever, like, as a story reward in some way. So I think that, and again, what I quite like about them, they're flavored in such a way, like, because you could just be like, they get them anyway, or something like. But I think, if you did that as part of a story reward,
like if you were the Knights of Bahamut, this could be feats that you could take. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of a feat, like just because of your connection to, or if you were Dragonborn, maybe even.
having it open to you like that. As you are Order of Bahamut, then these are open to you, whereas everyone else would, you'd have to prove yourself to.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that. That's quite cool. It's quite cool.
Yeah, so we don't have to go through all of them, but they pretty much just take a lot of dragon things.
It's a lot of dragons.
It's based a lot on dragons. So the next thing, chapter 3, then, is Dragons in Play, and this is actually a really good. I mean, it's another really good section for DMs, and it really. We've talked about this a lot, that role-playing is becoming more popular in gaming, which is really positive, and this is a really good document about how do you actually play a character, how do you get into not only role-playing them, but the followers and the relationships they'd have, how to actually build an encounter around a dragon, and then like adventure, and then actually going further, how would you make a dragon come into an adventure or further into a campaign around dragons. And this is where a lot of D season 3 is getting a lot of good ideas, because I've played dragons, and you know what, I haven't played them as well as I think. I've been doing them in one shots, and trying to fight a dragon in a one shot halfway through a one shot is never going to happen, but they are they're interesting beasts, and they've got this is really good. I think this is a really good additional bit. Have you gone through this bit? Did you go through all this bit?
Yeah, so I was gonna, so for me picking out stuff, so again, it's splitting them up into wormlings, young dragons, adult dragons, ancient dragons, and I know there's been stuff on this before, but actually saying like, here is how old they are. So like, I didn't even realize wormlings are like the first 5 years of a dragon's life. I generally thought it's like elves, like, oh, they get up to like 30 and then they go through puberty or something like that. And then like young dragons are up to the first century, and then adult dragons are like 101 to 799, like that awkward in between stage, and then ancient dragons are 800 plus, and I think that's I need that as a DM, because again, like, I think because their section in the monster manual, it's in detail, because obviously it talks about chromatic versus metallic, but it doesn't talk about the lifespan or even the reproduction, which I wanted to talk about briefly, because again, Minsk and Boo talked about like, you can get a dragon's egg, here's what you do with it. But like, obviously it goes, it does talk about like, well, dragon eggs also mature. They could take many years to mature, and you're like, oh shit, like that's going to take a long time. And I just thought, how, when you talked about before, like killing dragons, that doesn't seem right in a way. But you've got stuff here like spontaneous reincarnations, almost like Phoenix, like they die and an egg is replaced in a thing. Draconic transformation. Enlightened non-dragons are transformed into dragon eggs when they die. I think that's less cool. I just want turn into a wormling or something. Like don't bother with the egg stage, because I don't know. Yes. I'll read out the seedling one because it is great. So like, at the heart of the world, underground or in a remote, pristine wilderness, stands a tree which dragon eggs grow like fruit. Once in a lifetime, each dragon feels an overwhelming urge to seek out this tree. After finding it, the dragon must persuade its guardian to relinquish one or more eggs. What a story! And I can imagine a dragon asking for adventurers to come with it, to go get these eggs, like once a century or something like that. So that's again having that idea of like magical fruit. There's lots of like there's one on like Doctor Who recently, there's all these things like coming down, like beautiful eggs on vines and stuff like that, and that Seedlings of the First World, really I like that as a concept. I'd probably use that one.
Yeah, I like a lot of them. I think there's a good, the consuming treasure one's funny. just gonna eat some treasure, and I've got a bit of a treasure belly. Oh, there we go, baby. But
a significant portion of their own hoards, like, no, I couldn't possibly, like, one last, oh no.
Oh no. Yeah, and the rejuvenation one is sort of like an ancient dragon voluntarily enters a deep trance, eventually dies, leaving behind a single egg. I kind of like that in some of it. It's quite sweet. And the Dragon Conclave one's kind of having like 5 dragons come together and then clutch of eggs hatch 5 dragons of different kinds.
Giving up a bit of their life energy as part of the process. That's cool. Yeah. So yeah, I think this table for sure, because I think that not that it answers how dragons are made, but I just think that's actually what a cool life process. It's like, because maybe you do have to think about, like you said, like, why are so few dragons? Why is there so many dragons? Like, is there a reason? And again, that could be a story hook in itself. Going, we go and find the last dragon and preserve this species. It's and obviously going on, like, they've got these ideas for half dragons as well. Like, so not even dragonborn, but this idea that it doesn't have to be. I like it. Just as dragon reproduction isn't necessarily a straightforward biological process. Yeah. It's like it's not the birds and the bees. It's not the dragons and the dragons. But
yes, the half dragons is cool, and how it gives you little boons, little things to go with that.
Yes, it can go all the way from regional effects to the cradle favour, which I do quite like. That's the idea that a dragon may bestow the gift of draconic power on a newborn baby or an unborn baby as either a blessing or a curse. Because in Critical Role, Mark Hume's character, whose name escapes me, but was a similar Kaliana. That's her name. Where she was half dragonborn, and she was because you could physically her appearance, that she would hide her scales and stuff because she looked frightening to people. So again, depending on how you'd roleplay that and stuff, you maybe want to put that on there. But yeah, I think these are quite good. These are quite good. All of this book is pretty good. So yeah, I like I said, I think this whole chapter, lots of information, lots of cool things, like the death of the dragon as well, death throws, which I think is great for, again, if you're talking about your combat one-shot ones, if they do manage to kill a dragon, it's like, well, it like the first one on the death throws table says, this dragon immediately uses one of its lair actions, centering the effect on itself. You're like, whoops, like, explodes.
Yeah.
Whoopsie.
Yeah. Exactly.
The dragon uses its breath weapon one last time, so it's like, bah!
Yeah, no, I do like those, and also I like the regional reversals as well, like the fouled water, the restless sleep, all those things are quite well, the weather within 6 miles changes dramatically, I don't know, I kind of like these good little flavour flaves. Yeah, no, they're very cool. And then that's when it talks about the echoes across the world, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is what I was talking about earlier, about the fact that there's in every material plane there is this dragon has an echo of itself on all these different planes, and therefore they can, like, with dragonsight, be able to experience the life of and the intelligence and the understanding of all these other ones, which they gain more of when they get more ancient. Yeah. And as looking at like it says, as a spider sees through all its eyes, dragons simply are once and many times. Obviously this in case it's not obvious, Fizban's is littered throughout the quotes, just like with Tasha's, just like with Mordekainen's, just like with Minsk and Boo's as well. And I quite like, I prefer this because I sort of mentioned before, the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. That is written from different perspectives, but it's throughout. It says like, oh, this chapter was written by so and so, and then it's forever in their voice. I much prefer this because it's sort of like, because it feels like, again, accessible to read, but then quite funny. I just realized that you got the Tasha's sort of cutting wit and interesting thing. Here, Fizban's is clearly, I see, obviously, I know we've got the image of Fizban as like a monk of some sort, or the Golden Canaries, but it's like quite wry humour, quite like this is like quite funny, like almost like not, I wouldn't even say dad's humour, but just very like I get you.
Yeah,
he's cool. We then, this Gods and Religion talks a lot more about them, and that's where I was saying about it saying some of them aren't actually gods. It sort of implies a lot of that, but there's a lot more to that, which is in the Dungeon Master's Guide if you want to read up on that as well. But then it's got the dragon organizations like Cult of the Dragon, and it sort of says, there's gives you some adventure hooks for that, but they are, if you do Hoard of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat, that's that's all. There's much more of that in there, but they're an interesting lot. They wanted to make Dracoliches because they mistranslated everything. That's which is part of the whole Cult of the Dragons thing in that book. And then the Chamber, I thought I don't know much about Eberron, but they sounded quite interesting. This sort of prophetic sort of group of people trying to observe the potential futures using dragonsight and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I seem to remember at the beginning it talked about the myths of Eberron, describing its involvement with dragons, having like dragon above, dragon below, and then Eberron is the dragon in between. Which again, I quite like that they are created this microorganism of the multiverse through these sort of depths. Yeah. And I was just like, so was it Eberron is thus not actually a fragment of the first world, but rather a second generation derivative of that realm. So that idea that is, like you said, almost like an echo in some way. So I don't really know much about the Chamber either. I'm gonna have to. Yeah,
I need to read more about Eberron. I guess it's just to understand it more. But what I read here sounded very interesting, and you could take that into your own campaign. This sort of prophetic, sort of like trying to understand time and maybe how that could work into your campaigns and stuff like that.
Well, if you're watching Doctor Who just now, it's all about the flux and time being rewritten and broken and changed. It's So
okay,
just saying.
They've been watching Marvel, have they?
Everything. You know what? Again, spoilers if you've not seen the second episode. There is a bit at the end where the big bad is about to click their fingers for time to rush through someone, and it feels very Thanos.
Really?
It's like, oh no, someone's been watching Avengers Endgame.
That's so cool.
And obviously, like, again, I know we've been on this sort of a little while now, but like, looking at all this stuff about dragons as adventurers. I'm sure we'll have to go into much more detail.
Really cool, really good. The encounters, you can have little good sort of followers that you can have relationships to those minions. I like the dragons as people, as like they could be existing as a crime lord, or they could be existing in humanoid form as like just to keep so I quite like that idea.
As a noble or a parental figure,
yeah, exactly. Absolutely. The sort of person in your campaign that you just assume, like in that one, someone you loved that turned out to be a dragon, but that's sort of like, you're working for this crime boss, and then suddenly you cross them or something like that, or you make the wrong choice and take, and then they just turn into a dragon or something like that. You're
like, oh my god, it's their final form, just sort of out loud.
Yeah.
Obviously rushing a little ahead now, there's like the dragon encounters where it actually, I think this is very good, and I'm sure the older books do this as well, but I've just noticed this, it's that idea going, okay, is this encounter, it asks questions, it's like, is this encounter a goal or an obstacle? What is the goal of it? What is where is the thing? Is the encounter in the lair? If so, you need to count for that. Are they alone or little things like that, and then building up from there. I think that's such a great way, and I know other books do that idea of like, let's break it down, rather like, you want to do something and throw it in, that's cool, let's think about the other bits around support to sort of do that scaffolding around.
Yes. And then I think that is really good, and this is where we're saying it's a very GM heavy game book, isn't it, for this? And having done that Sunless Citadel adventure when I first returned back to D&D, that was the first one we did, and it's such a fun one. Trying to capture Calcrix was like the most.
Come here.
When we just got Meepo, we're just getting Meepo, like, you go and do it, Meepo, and stuff like that.
Meepo, yeah. So again, spoilers
Meepo the Brave.
Sunless Citadel spoilers, but Meepo is a little cobalt who has lost the Cobalt's mascot, which is this white wormling thing, which is, you have to go rescue it. And Meepo the Brave, who's like, I will come. Like, you're like, oh, he's dead. Dead because we convinced him to go in the room on his own with him, but it worked. No, he survived. It was fine. It was good fun. I loved it. It's a good adventure. I recommend it. And also that, because that does involve a red dragon as well, whose name is Ashaladon.
Yes.
Because that's it. Basically the Sun and the Citadel was up, and then Ashladon came and just buried this whole thing. So good. Yeah, as the tiniest mention of that dragon, I do remember, because Sun of the Citadel is a really good. If you're not wanting to do Mines of Fandelver, Lost Mines of Fandelver, sorry, Sun of the Citadel is another really good starting one, because then you've got White Plume Mountain, which you ran and I've been in.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I ran it for you. Yeah, no, but there's Sun of Citadel. Yeah, and literally I'd played both of those before, but we started Sun of Citadel and then went into a homebrew campaign, but it worked really well when we were coming back to it, and then a couple of other people were sort of new to the game, and it was it was a good. The only problem is it is a dungeon crawl, so if you're going,
it is a dungeon crawl. Yeah,
it is a bit of a crawl, so that's the only thing to just be aware of.
It's 3 layers, isn't it? As well.
Yeah,
but I mean, to be fair, you are currently in Custrad, the Durst House, and that's several layers in itself, even though so.
Yeah, but at least each layer's only got like 5 doors, not Sun of the Citadel, which got like 100 rooms.
He's like, Christ, Meepo!
Yeah, Meepo, what are we doing now? Like, anyway, it's good fun though. But
anyway, what I'd say, because obviously we've run over time by loads.
Boy, yeah, we might have to cut some bits out.
Nah, not at all. Obviously, like I said, I've only read half of this. Is there any of the bestiary, any sort of dragons that you want to recommend?
What it also comes on is a Dragonomicon, which is creating a dragon, which we did the layers, adventures, treasures, and like legends of that, and then it comes up and gives you just the information about all the different types of dragons, which is very cool. I guess we could do an episode on that at some point. Yeah,
actually go through, because I think that'd be a cool.
Yeah, create a dragon would be quite fun. I'd like to create a dragon. Let's create a dragon.
Let's create dragons.
Let's create dragons, and then if we create a dragon, I'll put it in Dragonsteel. Let's do that.
There you go.
There we go.
More content.
As I mentioned before on a couple of weeks ago, the aspect of Tiamat. And I just loved, as I said, my favourite thing was Elder Avernus was just such a great thing. And again, I liked that it could just be flavoured better. But they get thrown and banished through the first layer of the 9 Hells, and then they reappear back in non-occupied space. But I want a flavour that they just literally get thrown through the portal.
Look at that image. I'm sure you've got it up there.
Yeah.
But look at beautiful. That should be a poster in its own right.
Seriously, Tiamat is awesome, and and there's the aspect about him as well. I mean, these are super high level.
I mean, very cool, but it's only got one head.
Yeah, it's only got one head. Yeah, it's boring. It really is. I think Tiamat is so much cooler. It's such a great idea. This sort of 5-headed.
I mean, that said, Bahamut has platinum breath, so a 300-foot cone, 26 dexterity saving throw. Not many people are taking that. Or take 66. Or 12d10 radiant damage on a failed save.
It's pretty high level.
That's a challenge rating 30. Yeah, you'll be dead probably.
And it has mythic actions, not legendary actions. Not only legendary actions, but it has mythic actions, which is what they also have. Yeah, that's that.
I've seen that before. Again, going back to our Monster Mash episode with how not to DM with Derek, the Dullahan, which is their equivalent of the Headless Horseman, is that when you've killed the Headless Horseman, it regains all the hit points, and then it has access to mythic actions. So I wonder, how you were talking about big bads having actions lower levels that aren't legendary actions. Maybe that is that they're sort of going as like, this is like a second form in some way, but maybe having mythic actions or a secondary kind of action for your big bads in a way.
I like that. Yeah, and it's good to sort of up that again, and also a chromatic great worm, which is basically, like, as I said, the Chronepsis character, any of the Ashladon, those sorts of like, they've consumed more of their bodies, or they're doing other things to get themselves to be at a mythic level, and so you can just have any chromatic type that is a great worm, and that gets chromatic flare, where flares of elemental energy. So each 60-foot radius sphere centered on the great worm must succeed on DC 26 saving throw, or take 5d8 damage of a type determined by the color of the dragon. But they're pretty beastie, pretty beastie animals. But those are the sort of and then I quite like you like the Hydra, didn't you as well? I think you said that.
The Hydra dragon, which is just essentially a Hydra. But obviously you have to roll for how many heads it regains that haven't been taken by radiant damage, I think. I was like, yep, you better look out. Although I did just see, because it just turned up there, the Hoard Mimic is on 204, which has a great picture of like somebody, almost like Aladdin style.
Yes.
You're like, that is a mimic.
That is so cool. I'll try and find that quickly.
Go for
the
it.
Horde Mimic is H, and the Horde Scarabs are cool as well. They're just pretty.
I look on the other on the opposite page. Again, you'll have a better image of that. Oh yeah, beautiful. The art's great, guys.
That's great. As ever, the art's great. I like the eye drake. That is cool. When
That's
a
been out on
beholder
social
contends
media.
with the dragon for power and wealth. Yeah, I got it.
Yup.
Yeah, it gets completely obsesses and its dreams get so focused on it that it creates itself into a dragon beholder mix. It is freaky and I love it in that sense. I think it was such a cool idea and I was all for that. Good fun.
Yeah, you've got all the eye rays as well. So if anything, again, it doesn't. Oh, it does say how big it is. It's a large aberration. In my head, that thing is like, not like bird size. Flying around. This thing's big, guys.
That's pretty huge. It's a pretty cool thing. I really like it. I like that one. The other one that I liked was I thought it was such a great idea. I thought it was someone's really gone like, what can we mix a dragon with? And they went, what about beholder? Yeah, okay. But I did like the dragon blood ooze as like something I'd love to just add as an effect to a combat.
Yeah.
You know, like if you want to really up a combat a bit and say that, you know, when you've hit a dragon, maybe if you hit it hard enough, like you take a quarter of its damage down in one hit, or a number, let's say take a number that it produces such a glob of blood that it actually creates another thing for you to fight. I think would be quite mean but fun.
With challenge rating 5 as well, so it is going to be an irritating one as well.
Yeah. But you could imagine just do it like once,
Ugh.
like, you know, someone comes in and just does a over 50 points hit on a dragon.
And it
Do you know
sort
what I
of
mean?
coughs it up, and then you're like, well, we'll go and focus on the dragon, and then like 2 turns later, it's like, I'm here.
Exactly.
Almost like Slimer from Ghostbusters.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
I quite like that as an idea. One more, Dragonborn champions, but like very cool, good additional. I was thinking, have you played Hoard? Have you played any of the Tyranny of Dragons games? Any of those
I have not,
campaigns?
No.
Because I've tried using their dragon cultists, and like they're quite good. The claw, the fang, and the wing, they're quite well done. But this is kind of like, I thought, actually, this is kind of gives some more interesting sort of like variants on what could be some sort of dragon related sort of like we were talking about the Bahamut, Order Bahamut. These would be really like the Dragonborn of Bahamut. Use that as a sort of NPC character if you needed one for that and stuff like that. So just good, more sort of flavoured towards
minor
dragons.
characters. That definitely, absolutely, and looking at them as well.
Sorry.
And I mean, I know we've not really mentioned them, but the sort of head of the gem dragons, and I'm going to say their name wrong, is Sardior. I always think of it as like Dior as a fancy one, but and I know I've said this before on a different episode, but this idea at the beginning that the metallic dragons are good, chromatic dragons are bad, and then the gems are neutral. I kind of like that as a thing, and like looking at all the Dragonborns here, like you said, Dragonborn champions. Like the Sardor one is that almost sort of like heat breath as psionics, because it makes sense because they've got different sort of powers compared to the other two, and actually it does say that. I said typically lawfully good. Oh, it's starting to say typically now in alignment. I did not realise that. That's interesting. So. Yeah, and obviously Dragonborn of Tiamat is typically chaotic evil. Just in case you weren't sure.
But again, another good high-level character if you want that sort of dragon. You could make that not a Dragonborn, if you know what I mean, but you could make, if you wanted to flavour that just for someone who's been dragon touched or championed as a champion of
Yeah.
Tiamat or something like that as well, as
Yeah,
they
it says
called them. I
medium
think
humanoid on it, so yeah, absolutely. You can flavour it in,
exactly.
a
So
different way.
you could make them just an elf that has these abilities as well, sort of thing. The dragon flesh grafters as well were just quite
they're gross on the other page. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
horrible image.
which makes me think of Gene Stealers, but from Warhammer. But it's that sort of like
Yeah. I love the idea that, you know, you saying like a medium. It is medium, unfortunately, but I love the idea of like a halfling or a gnome champion. Like,
well, I mean, but you can just change that. I think you can just change. I would just
with all these things, you can change them. I know.
yeah, that's what I So like literally, yeah. Well, there is one in High Rollers, isn't there? When but he's a dragon sorcerer. I think that's how he's got it. But he's
I think so. Yeah.
they flavour it. They fight a halfling who's like really called Clarence in their Clash of Spells game that they have in it.
Yes.
And he's like, hello, hello, I'm gonna fight you. Am I Master Lucius or something like that? And then he just starts like blowing out like dragon splash at them. It's quite funny. It's very well played.
Oh.
And one more piece of art that I want to show is the
please.
dragon turtle.
Yes.
Holy mackerel, that is big. I was
they are huge. Yeah.
I didn't. You know, we talk about scale. I was like, this is an ancient one. Is a gargantuan dragon.
Oh yeah. It's again, it's that sort of thing where obviously you're thinking, oh, gargantuan. What does that entail? And you're thinking
It's got galleons of ships, and it's not even the size of its nails. Its
like,
teeth is the size of a galleon, basically.
that image is
like.
insane, isn't it? That image
It's
is
fantastic.
beautiful. Yeah, it's the what was I gonna say? Yeah, like obviously when you think of gargantuan stuff, it's like, oh, it's I've completely forgotten what it's called now. The world-ending one that was at level 30 in the original Monsters Manual. It's right at the end. Can't remember, but like the astral dreadnoughts, all that sort of thing, where it's incomprehensibly big.
Yeah.
This feels to me like this would appear in a game. You know how we were talking before about dragons being ground in a way? I can imagine this happening.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's just like this island started moving. Have you seen Detective Pikachu?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, when they oversized I've forgotten the name of the Pokemon, but they are like the hills and the mountains are actually just the big. Yeah, that's very cool. Was there anything else on there that
I think we're gonna have to come back to this book. You know, I think we're gonna. Yeah, obviously, I know we've rushed through the end and stuff like that. It's sort of it is sort of initial impressions. I know, but and I know we complained at the beginning. We're always going to complain because there's always going to be stuff there. But I think I love this book, and it's quite. I would say it's quite small compared to some of the other books recently. Like I'm not going to get it out, but like Ravenloft is quite thick and stuff like that. So there's a lot they've packed in there, but there's also stuff I think they've slimmed down. And for me, the biggest thing, which we'll come on to probably next time when we're talking about villains, is that with more and more games going towards roleplay, I think there needs to be more advice or more suggestions on how you actually roleplay stuff. Now, obviously, in here, which we barely touched on, but it's like, oh, you could roleplay them because they've got certain mannerisms, stuff like that. Actually, I think any advice or tips on how you do that doesn't rely on you like booming voice and then ruining your voice for the next day, or an accent or anything like that. There are definitely ways to sort of hold yourself and stuff like that. And maybe it's not a book thing. Maybe it needs to be a set of videos. Which I'm sure they've done as well. But just in my head, I was like, that's what I'd love to see is people to give advice on how do you do role play and stuff, because I think that's one thing many people get scared of doing when they're DMing is performing in a way. And because you're doing all sorts, you're running a world, you're combat admin, and you're also the cleverest person in the room. So it's a mixture of things. But I guess
just not me most of the time. So
no, but I thought because we'll come when we do villains. Because I've got a few exercises that we can do. As well as creating a villain, we can come up with some sort of ways you can roleplay it as well. But yeah, overall, loved. I went out to get this book, and I've not been disappointed. I think the artwork is beautiful, and there's a lot in here that I'm going to spend the next couple of days just going through reading it properly. So. Yeah,
no, it's really good, and I think if you want more dragons in your Dungeons and Dragons, this is what you want. And I think if you want to you could make a whole campaign based off all the stuff in this. As we said, and then if you're bringing your own worlds to it, perfect, even more sort of thing. I think that's
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you, Hamilton, again, for suggesting such a great topic. Thank myself for actually getting the book.
I've suggested the new Wizards of the Coast book. It's like, it wasn't the... Do you know what I mean? It's like, should we do Marvel on the Witch? Like, does that came, sort of thing.
Yeah,
yes.
sure. But yes, but I think,
Yeah.
it's definitely something we're going to have to return to and definitely look at, because I think there's so much, like you said, in the, what's it called? The I can't even say it. There you go. You've got it. My words are gone. But there's so many different types, like different flavorings of that. We definitely need to create our own dragon and the encounter that goes with it. I think that's the thing, because I think people would. I think I certainly would want that, because this is all good inspiration. But then I guess we need to prove that we can also do that. So
fantastic.
Thank you. So thank
Awesome.
You for that.
Okay. Well, how is everything going outside of Fizban's then for you, Fiona?
For me, well, I'm so glad you asked. So, obviously, my name is Fiona. I run the What Am I Rolling podcast, which is a twice-monthly RPG one-shot podcast. As always, it's going very well. So I'm going to say it's going so well. Whatever's coming out next is probably the best thing I've ever done. Don't know what it is, but I'm sure it is. I think it'll be coming up towards the end of the year, so there'll probably be a end-of-year special at some point. There'll be some other sort of repeats of stuff. Doing really well, doing some other streams, doing some improv stuff, but it's all going really well, and cool. I'm just ticking along for the ride. What about you, Hamilton? What's going on with you, man?
I don't know, because what will be happening by then, what will be out and known, but season 3 stuff will be happening. Christmas specials, which will relate to season 3. They're sort of an intro to what happens in season 3. Should be starting in December, and that'll be the beginning of, that's like our prologue series for season 3. Exciting. There might be some multiverse shit going on in that as well, because we watched Loki as well, but why not, and that's about it really. There's just gonna be more stuff happening soon.
More stuff coming soon. That I think that's our lives in general. It feels like almost like the future of D&D podcast, D&D panel, where it's like there's stuff happening coming soon, and you're like,
yes, exactly.
What is it?
Yeah. I mean, you will know about, hopefully soon. It's because we pre-record these things. It makes it that you just don't know what's literally known at the time. It's a problem.
That's what it looks. No need to be sorry. At least, hey, it means that we've always got content in the bag. That's how I see it.
Exactly.
And then just to quickly finish off, because I forgot to do it last episode, we have an offer code at Third Space Gaming. So if you want to get your copy of Fizban's, you can pre-order, or now order probably, from Third Space Gaming, which is at your friendly local game shop in Burnley, up north, where I'm originally from. You can type in DMBC into checkout on the website, and you get 10% off your first order. So whether that is a Fizban's book, whether that's terrain, whether that's another role-playing game, that is fine. So just DMBC, using my own Dragon Claws, DMBC, into checkout, and you get 10% off. And that's
Fantastic.
it.
Awesome. That's it. With that, there is none else but to say than love you. Bye.